Now we can get into some more of that Monopoly talk. Okay. We're going to talk about Francis Ngannou for the rest of the show, pretty much. And there's a number of things we can talk about with this Ngannou situation. First and foremost, Ngannou won his fight with Cyril Game and decided to sit out until his contract expired. Now, this is a very interesting situation because contracts never used to expire, ever. The reason that his contract expired is because in 2017, the UFC changed the way they do their contracts. They put in a 5-year sunset clause from the beginning of the date of your, not your bout agreement, but your promotional agreement. Sorry, your promotional agreement. And the day that your promotional agreement starts, which is usually when your first fight is, you have a 5-year time period and your contract expires. No matter how many fights you've had, no matter what's happened with your career or where you're at, after that 5 years, the contract will expire unless you renew it. That is there. That provision is there only because of the class action lawsuit. Francis Ngannou is able to do what he is doing today right now because of me and other fighters like me, Nate Quarry, Randy Couture, Kung Lee, right? Those guys coming forward. We made that change. We made that happen. The largest change, the biggest change, the most important change in the history of MMA that's happened came from us. Okay, don't get it twisted. Don't forget about it. We did that. We made it possible for Francis Ngannou to do what he's doing. Regardless of what anybody wants to say about Francis being a hero, Hamza is saying it right now, a good guy or whatever he's doing, he would not have this opportunity in any way, shape, or form without us. Without what we did, it would have happened. He would never have this power. He would never have this ability to do this. We did that. You're welcome. You're welcome. I do question his intent because he hasn't reached out in any way. He's not talking with the MMA Fighters Association. The only reason he is doing what he's able to do now, when the only reason he's able to do what he's doing now is because of us, yet he hasn't reached out. He's not talking with us. So I'm very skeptical of anybody who's like, I can't wait to come in and help MMA and MMA fighters, but I'm going to ignore the group of people who's done the most. That makes zero sense. I'm not even going to talk to him. I'm not even going to reach out and ask for advice. Okay. It's very sketchy to me, very skeptical. I'm leaning more towards he's just angling things because he wanted out of his contract in order to pursue boxing. We'll get into that more though. Francis allowed his contract to expire. He sat out for a while, took some time to heal injuries and things up, and now he's a free agent. And now he's able to talk with other people. One of the organizations that's talking about getting him is PFL. Now, PFL, I don't think will be able to swing this at all. And the reason is because they offer $1 million grand prize at the end of the year. That's peanuts to him. That's peanuts. A UFC pays more than that. Not guaranteed, but with the pay-per-views, he would make more than that. Are they going to pay him millions of dollars per fight and the $1 million grand prize at the end? Because that's what they would have to do. They're going to have to pay him like $8 million, $10 million a fight and pay him $1 million at the end of the tournament. Is that what they're going to do? Because that doesn't make any sense to me. I don't think PFL's a serious contender at all in any way. Hamzamir said it right here. PFL can't pay him. Yep. So then we get to Bellator. Bellator is another option. What is it? Bellator was with Showtime. No, it's Showtime Sports, right? Showtime Sports, and they have certain boxers. And I think this is actually kind of a okay thing. This could be something that happens because Bellator is on Showtime. Showtime could possibly have the money, right? If he signs with Bellator, Showtime will allow him to fight boxing sometimes also. So he'll get to fight for Bellator, but I don't think Bellator can afford to pay him. Okay. I don't think Bellator can afford to pay him, but Showtime might kick in some money because they realize how much viewership they'll get from it. Maybe if they give him extra money on the back end for the boxing matches. I don't know, but it seems like there's more possibility to keep him in MMA from Bellator because of the Showtime situation. Showtime also has a number of heavyweights: Deontay Wilder, Andy Ruiz Jr., and Frank Sanchez. Those are all guys who are possible fights that they can make pretty quickly for Showtime. You'd be working with Al Heyman in that situation, but I don't even think that's going to happen. I don't think that's what's going to go on because he doesn't need a long-term like MMA deal. That's not what it is. He wants to be able to fight for the highest paid contract whenever he wants to. He should be his own promoter. I would create Ngannou promotions, and now he has to co-promote with all these other promoters. Don't sign with them. Sign with yourself. I think that's his best option. I can't remember the one guy. There was another fight that was named recently that he could fight, but Tyson Fury recently publicly just made another statement in the last few days about being open to fighting Francis. That would be great. I would love any of those top guys. I would watch Francis box. On top of that, I would watch Francis box anyone. I don't care. If your grandma wants to fight him, I'll watch him fight your grandma. You can fight a handicapped person. I don't care. I'll watch it because it's Francis Ngannou. It's Francis Ngannou. We care about the name. We care about the guy. It's not the promoter. It's not the letters on the canvas. The guy. I want to watch Francis Ngannou fight. I don't care who he fights for. I don't even care that much about who he's fighting. I will watch Francis Ngannou smash anybody because that's fun. It's fun. As a spectator, I'm going to watch it. I'm going to watch it. I don't care. I don't care. And that's one of the big things people are going off about. All right. So I'm gonna read a little bit of a thread talking about stuff. And this guy did a great job of condensing everything, right? And this is a guy named Aaron Bronstetter. He is a MMA reporter, TSN Sports, TSN Edge contributor. Aaron.report. I believe that's his website. He's a double A Aaron. Double A Aaron is saying that Ngannou says the John Jones fight was in the ballpark of $8 million that Brock Lesnar reportedly made for UFC 200, and that he had asked for a 3-fight deal with no extension clauses. And that's supposedly, we still don't know exactly what Brock made. We're estimating because it's all secret stuff. Once again, there's no secret pay with the Ali Act. But that'll make it like boxing. No, like knowing what other people are making helps you negotiate. It's dumb. All right. So Ngannou also asked for the right to have sponsorships, presumably in cage, health insurance, and advocate on board meetings that would represent fighters. He was fairly certain that he would not get those things, but wanted to make it known that those were things he wanted. I think that's just kind of smokescreen stuff. I don't think he really cared, because if he really cared about those things, he would have reached out to the Fighters Association. He would have reached out to us about going to Congress and getting the Ali Act amended for MMA. Like, why wouldn't he have done that? He would get all of those things that he wants right there if he would take those actions, if he would take those steps, contact us, work with us, go to DC and get the signatures with us. That's something that somebody who is serious about change would do, because those are the ways to make it happen. Those are the ways. Those are the steps. We've seen it from other sports. We know what to do. We know what we need to do. We know the legal process of making it happen to give us free agency. We know that. We're trying to carry it out. If we had more support, it would go much smoother, much faster. But he's either hesitant or doesn't care, or he's just worried about making more money by making himself independent contractor, like fully free agent. I think that him saying this, knowing that he's not going to get it from the UFC, makes them look bad, because he's asking for nice things. He's asking for nice things for fighters. So he sounds like a really great guy. He's a great guy, and the UFC won't give it to him. Oh, they're terrible people. They are terrible people. But I'm just kind of letting you see, like, he's playing this very smart. He's being coached very well, because the fans are going to have a harder time being mad at him, because, like, hey, man, I just wanted simple things. I wanted healthcare for the fighters. I wanted all these good things. But he hasn't done any actual steps towards making them happen, other than asking for them in this deal. So I think that was just a play. He made a play. It was a good play. Next little tweet in the thread here. Ngannou said he requested these things for all fighters and did not think that it would happen, but felt he needed to ask. Ngannou wanted things that had more value to him than money, like an event in Africa, and felt that the negotiations were centered solely around money, which was not as important to him as other more unconventional requirements that he had hoped for. Possible, that could possibly be true, but also it could be that he just knows that the numbers that they're saying are nothing close to what he's being quoted by the boxing people. They're offering him $8 million, $12 million. Oh, this is a crazy, great deal. He's got somebody else in his ear guaranteeing him 20. we'll give you $20 million for one fight. And they're like offered him $8 million for maybe 3 fights. I don't know. Again, Ngannou says that having boxing in his contract was not a deal breaker. He wanted a 3-fight deal that he could deliver upon quickly, barring injury, so that he could be free agent. And if the UFC had an interest in a boxing crossover, they could explore it. Ngannou says that he has been a free agent since early mid-December, but did not go public with it out of respect to the negotiations with the UFC. Ngannou on whether he feels UFC will stay true to their word and not match any offer he receives. I don't care. They can match if they want. Yeah, see, that's another thing. Like they still have that option. That's still part of in their contracts. Even though we got the sunset clause, they still have a matching period. So it could be like 6 months of a matching period. So like any offers that come down to him in the next 6 months, they have the option to match. So he's still not technically free. They could still trump card him and say, screw you. They could sign him to the contract, sign him to the deal, and then sit him and bench him till he's 40. And then what? Seriously. And then what? Ngannou feels he still has a lot to give to the sport of mixed martial arts and also hopes to achieve something in the boxing world. Ngannou says that he doesn't take any of this personally, and one thing he has learned is to never say never, and says down the road maybe he ends up in the UFC again, but on his terms. All right, that's interesting. Not bad, not bad. What's the next one? Okay, so let's go to this. This is a little video by, I'm going to share this, Luke Thomas, who did a pretty good job with this. I'm going to share this so you guys can listen in. And this is a good point because this, to me, a lot of people keep saying this, like, who's he going to fight? Who's he going to fight? Who's he going to fight? I don't care. I'm watching football. I fight anybody. But it's also a clear demonstration of how much of a monopoly the UFC is. And Luke does a great job with this, so I'm just going to let him go.
People think it's a dunk when they go, well, he left UFC, yeah, real smart guy, who are you going to fight out there? The fact that he might not have a lot of great opponents inside MMA and has to go to boxing tells you how much the industry is controlled by a dominant single player. That it tells you the industry is fucked in that way, because the number one heavyweight on the planet in MMA might have a hard time finding opponents that people care about, because the vast majority of them in that weight class and every other one are locked up by a single promoter. But let me make just one point, BC, that I just want to be clear about something. And I've been in MMA for a long time, and this is one thing that I've not always gotten right in my much smaller, more diminutive role relative to Francis Ngannou. Infinitesimally smaller, but if you play a role in the sport, I think you should think about this. Fighter pay sometimes becomes what people think is a conversation about dollars, and the vast majority of the time it is. There are a lot of people who feel like a lot of fighters who are underpaid and just want more money to get through the next camp or to reach a certain goal and then get out of the sport when they've got enough money, right? I just want to use fighting to get rich or to set my family up, buy some property, go on to my next chapter of my life. And I think that's all great. I think people associate fighter pay with dollars, but at the heart of fighter pay is actually about treatment and how we consider the plight of fighters more broadly, and whether or not we care about them and whether or not we care about their interests and who's looking out for them. And by the way, often they are their own worst advocate. I saw Charles Jourdain speaking out against changes to fighter pay, which to me is incomprehensible. But this is the key for Francis, BC. This is the key. There are a lot of people who don't mind getting into the sport, taking from it, and leaving. And that's true of managers, fighters, promoters, media, brands who are sponsors, you name it.
Why is that a thing? How many other professional sports are kind of like that? Not as many. And it's because of how monopolized things are. It becomes frustrating, okay? And he doesn't think about this or why, but it's frustrating for anybody, whether it's a fighter, manager, coach, to get involved in the sport when it's so heavily controlled by outside entities. It's frustrating. And it eventually you get to the point where you're like, screw it, man. I'm just going to take what I can and I'm getting out. Get away from you slime balls. Get away from you scumbags. It is, because the business model to MMA is corrupt. It's corruption. It's conflict of interest. The promoters control the title. They control ascension to the title. That's 100% conflict of interest. 100%. Needs to stop. And that's why people leave. People will take what they can from the sport and get the hell out, because you can't win in a rigged market. The UFC's got their thumb on the scale. You get frustrated after a while and you end up going somewhere else. And that's a big reason why I think the light heavyweight and the heavyweight weight class are weak. They're so much weaker than they should be, because big, strong athletes who are that big, 205 to 265 pounds, don't fight. They play some other sport. They're going to box, they're going to do boxing, or they're going to go in some other place. Hell, even like heavyweight pro kickboxers have more free agency and can travel more and fight more than MMA fighters. The monopoly causes people just to want to leave. It's frustrating.
Francis, like all of us, has partly been a taker, right? He has been paid and he's rendered some services, but it looks to me like what he actually wants to do is to make MMA better. And he actually wants to sacrifice some of his long-term interests, including maybe even his short-term interests, in order to make MMA better. Now, I am skeptical this will work, quite candidly. That is at the heart of what he is doing. That is what he is sacrificing on the off altar of future greatness. There's just not many people. I've been around for almost 15, actually a little more than 15 years at this point covering the sport. There are not many people, especially ones who are in lofty positions where they can get paid, who are willing to sacrifice some of that in the hopes of making the sport actually more equitable and actually more fair, because they actually think not merely about themselves, but about how the broader system should work.
I disagree. I disagree with Luke. He hasn't reached out to the people who have done actual stuff. He's doing this for himself. I think it's good that he's doing this. I think it's really good. I'm supportive of it. I'm applauding it, but I don't think he's really going out of his way to help people. He would have reached. Why didn't he reach out to Randy Couture? He's not going to talk to Randy Couture and have a sit down with Randy Couture. Seriously? Why? If you're serious about changing the sport, and to think that he's sacrificing my ass, he's sacrificing. He'll make more money in one boxing fight than he made in his entire UFC career. He could fight a nobody on one of Jake Paul's cards and he'll make more money. I already said it. I'll pay to watch him fight anybody. I don't care. I want to watch Francis Ngannou knock somebody out. I want to see that power. I want to see the hardest recorded punching power ever in UFC history. I want to see him hit somebody. I don't care who it is. I do not care. And there are plenty of people. There are lots of people who are just like me. They don't care. I do not care. I want to watch him fight somebody, anybody. Make it happen. Here's my $100. Take it. Francis reached out to Randy. Ray did reach out to Randy. Randy told him to leave. To leave what? Leave the UFC? Good. Good. Hopefully he comes with us and lobbies Congress. I'll believe that he's serious about changing the sport. All of these guys. All of these guys, anybody who says fuck you, they want to do better for the sport of MMA, they want to make things better, they care about the fighters. Anybody who says that, if they're not willing to go to DC and lobby with us, or they're not vocally supporting and advocating for the lawsuit, screw you. You're not serious. You're not a serious person. You only care about making things better for yourself. You're not a serious person. You're not serious about making things better for people. Somebody who really has sacrificed are people who left and took stands and then had no future to jump off to. Guys who are like, nope, I'm taking a stand because you guys are scumbags. But I know I don't have any options outside of here. I don't have a boxing opportunity. I don't have any opportunity, but I'm going to take a stand and fight anyways. That's somebody who's actually gives a shit. That's something I respect. You're not going to gain anything from what you're doing personally. Okay. That's remarkable. That's something to look up to. He's not that. He's going to profit off of this. No matter what he does, he's going to be better off than he was if he stayed. People want to watch the fighter, not the promotion. 100%. I don't know. This guy, he walked away from $8 million and now he's going to make $20 million. Like he's taking such a risk. Oh my God. He's the heavyweight champion of the world. He could go right now and become an actor. You're telling me that Francis Ngannou can't be a villain in some character? Put him in Black Panther. Make him a villain in that movie. He'll make way more money in that. And the UFC won't be able to interfere and say no. There was a great point by Luke Thomas about how this is absolute proof that UFC has a monopoly. Oh, well, he's got no one to fight now. There's no one in MMA to fight. What's he going to do? Who are we going to watch him fight? Well, okay. That shows the market share and the monopoly UFC has. That doesn't happen in boxing. How many times have you heard of a boxer leave a boxing promoter and then, there's nobody for him to fight? It's never happened because they leave that promoter. They can go to another promoter and they can still, if they have the ranking, they own their ranking. They own their titles. We don't. They're not even real world titles. It's just a trophy they bestow on the best fighter that night. And that's why we'll get to this in a little bit. But DJ talks about pay a little bit. Remember Demetrius Johnson, right? That dude ended up getting like 10 belts from them because they said, well, the title belt isn't a world title belt. It's an ornament to award to the best fighter that night. It's not a world title. He's like, okay, well, if it's an award you give after the fight, I want a new one after each time I win. He ended up getting like 10 belts. Or whatever is how many times he defended, right? He was costing him money. So that's when they decided to start putting little gems in the belt. So you win your belt and every time you win it again, you get a new gem in your belt instead of a brand new belt. That's why they changed things around to save money. The scumbags. They're such scumbags. Okay, so this is something real quick by Josh Gross commenting on a Rogan comment. Joe Rogan talking about Francis and John Jones. Joe Rogan said, "I'm mad because I feel like we were deprived of one of the great fights in MMA, one of the most compelling fights in MMA." You're right. Right now, it's the most compelling fight in MMA. And Josh Gross says, "The argument that the best fighters always take place in the UFC and nowhere else is marketing. Marketing, only marketing. Quite a few fights haven't happened for all sorts of reasons, most notably the way business is conducted." That's the most notable reason. And we can go to the original fight that was stolen from us by the greedy dirtbags in the UFC. Oh, where did it go? I lost the thing. But the fight that we lost, the original fight we lost was Fedor versus Randy Couture. It was a done deal. There was an offer on the table for $5 million flat for him to fight Fedor. UFC wouldn't let the fight happen. We got robbed. Us, the fans, got robbed of watching Randy Couture and Fedor Emelianenko fighting at their primes because of UFC's business model. But boxing never achieved the best fights. You're morons. You are below 100 IQ level. You're mids. If you believe that, you're mid-intelligence, mid-wit. It's not true. We've lost way more fights because of UFC's business model. Way more. Sorry, man. It's just marketing, and you're dumb if you believe it. Now let's get to some more BS. This is a little video of DJ, and DJ's talking about his pay, okay, and how much he was paid and whatever during title fights, okay? You're talking about like pound for pound, one of the greatest ever. And they did him so dirty because they never put him on a card with other multiple titles. If they would have gave him the Ronda Rousey treatment, and if they would have gave him and put him in her spot on those same cards, he would have made so much more money and been so much more popular. But they purposely buried him because he wins too much. They hate guys who win too much. If you're not representing a market that they need to get into, they don't want you to win all the time because it costs them too much money. They don't want to pay you. Scumbags. We get in here to DJ.
When I fought Dominic Cruz, I was under contract. I think I was fighting for, it was 14-14. Yeah, I lost Dominic Cruz, so I made 14K. Then I was about to fight Eddie Wineland, and that didn't go through. So I fought Ian McCall in Australia. I was on that same contract. And then I got a new contract when I fought Ian McCall the second time. I think I got bumped up to 20-20. So I beat Ian McCall, and then I fought Joseph Benavidez. And then I was still on that 20-20. So when I fought John Dodson, I made 23-23. And then when I fought John Moraga, I think it was 23-23. Then nobody went like 26-26. And then when I fought Joseph Benavidez, I think it was like 30-30. And then I finally got a new contract as a champion, and I think it was 125-50. But I couldn't get pay-per-view points. And that's where a champion makes most of their bang for the buck, is the pay-per-view points. Because if you get on a card with Conor McGregor and he does 2.1 million buys, then you just do the fucking math. You're going to make a shitload of money. I never got the opportunity to do that. So when they try to stiff arm me to fight TJ Dillashaw, I was like, yeah, pay me fucking $1 million and I'll do it. This is a super fight. Let's make some super money. They were never wanted to do that. So that's why I came out with that basically pushing back, like, when does a champion have leverage? When does a champion be able to get what's due to him, right? I'm going on my 7th or 8th consecutive title defense. You got CM Punk over 17. Here. He's making 500 bones, and it's his second fight in the UFC. That's where that chip on my shoulder came from.
They won't give him pay-per-views. He can't get the pay-per-view points. They're not paying him his worth. They want him to do super fights. And then some jackass comes out of nowhere because he's a popular pro wrestler, and they pay him $500,000. And he's like, what the hell is just happening? He's like fighting for titles for $33,000. You can argue that, lighter weights, not as many people watch them or whatever, but he should have the opportunity to sell a card. And they never really gave him that. And they never compounded the titles or big fights on a card. If they really want to push somebody, that's what they do. Am I off on the Francis? Should I just be like, oh, he's the new savior. He's the guy. He's going to make it happen. He's the one. Or is he another guy who's just manipulating things to get enough for himself to be happy? Is he really sacrificing? Is he really taking that big of a risk? If he walks away from the sport right now and tries to do acting or something, what do you think the likelihood is that I don't care, man. You can put him in probably 3, 4, or 5 movies, even if he's not a great actor. He just looks imposing. You just have to make a new Predator movie and put him in there. I'm sorry. I would watch that. I'd watch him box. I'd watch him in a movie. I think he could make more money in entertainment than he ever made fighting. Quite honestly, I don't think he's taking a risk. He's walking away from the situation as the greatest heavyweight, arguably the greatest Stipe Miocic, you can argue that he was too, but then Francis did beat him. Finally, he upped his game enough to beat him. I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't really see it as that huge of a risk. I think I think he did the right thing because he's going to make more money away from them than with them. Quite honestly, he's built his name enough to not need those 3 logos. The UFC. You don't think he'll do acting, Hamza? I think it would be a mistake if he needs the money. I think he should just do one role for fun and get paid more than the UFC's $8 million offer. That would be hilarious. I think play some stupid role in some stupid movie and not even do that good of a job, and he still makes more money than fighting for them.